Rise of the Planet of the Apes is the first live-action film that has its main character as a thoughtful, self-aware, feeling animal.
Caesar is truly a new paradigm in filmmaking, and it's a new paradigm because of the extent of the technical challenges of making this movie and it merging with the creative.
We are breaking very new ground here. I think Weta have done something that's quite extraordinary. Our story deals with real apes. We knew that we had to put to one side the idea of using prosthetics and human actors in animal suits. We couldn't do that.
At one point, we looked into using real apes, and for a variety of reasons, we just didn't do it.
Of course, it would be an irony to tell the story of the exploited and the mistreated and use live apes to do that. I don't think that's where we wanted to go, so we had the choice of exploring what we could do with performance capture to actually try and create photorealistic apes.
It really became about the performance. And that's where we really draw on working with performers like Andy Serkis or like Terry Notary.
Trying to show this emotional journey of Caesar and show it through the emotion of how intelligent he is actually a very subtle kind of thing, and it would be pretty much impossible to do if we didn't have Andy Serkis basically acting out that journey for us, and then we're able to replicate it.
We had a movement expert who's probably the most experienced in terms of ape performance. His name is Terry Notary. Comes from a stunt background. I think he actually originated in Cirque du Soleil. He put everybody through ape school.
We're going to just run you through a little bit of some of the exercises that we do. We always start in our first position, just like anything, like any technique, ballet, gymnastics. You have your basics, and our basics are this solid foundation of the first position. And then when we go to take our first step, you reach and absorb through the shoulder. Boom, keeping those hips square. About 90% of it is getting in the mode of an ape and getting into the presence and the feel of how they exist. And once you get that, the movement comes much more naturally, and it's much more organic that way.
There's a couple of details that you have to think about when you're creating something like this, when you're going for photorealism. The quality of the skin, the quality of the eyes, the quality of the fur.
The lips, the moisture in the skin, the shine, that we want to make the apes look as realistic as possible.
It all starts off with a lot of research and development in the beginning.
We were able to work with our friends at the Wellington Zoo and look at the chimps there and to really study them. There's a lot of information that has to get gathered to kind of recreate in a virtual world everything that you see in the real world.
To go into some of the anatomical detail, we also reference real apes as well, just to look at how the muscles move and bone structure and facial structure.
Learning about the skeletons, learning about the way the muscles are laid out in the character.
We build all the anatomy for the creature, its skeleton, its muscles, the skin.
Even nerve bundles and stuff like that, because what we really try to do is fill the entire inside of the creature with the stuff that actually drives it.
The creatures really do have the correct anatomical layers. We'll basically start to build all these different layers of the underlying anatomy. So we'll build his skull. Okay, so you'll never see his skull apart from his teeth, obviously, but his jawbone and his skull will get built and then fitted to the model. And then we'll go and build all the underlying sort of musculature of the model. So, his neck muscles and all the different skeletal muscles get modeled. You never directly see that in the finished result, but you see the effect of all these different things solving out.
And then from there, then it would come to our department, the textures department, where we had to actually put in all the very fine wrinkles, all the pores, and the coloration on all the characters. And we were also able to get hand and feet casts of these guys. And again, that was just a huge bonus for us in the textures department, because we can transfer those realistic textures into our digital models, which in turn just makes them look that much more realistic.
Having a silicone scan of a real chimp or real ape's hand or face, that allows for a one-to-one placement of the same detail that you would get in real life. To have this type of detail really makes life much easier. And as you can see, we can toggle around the character and zoom in and focus on any particular area that we need to detail. These are all great tools that just a couple years ago didn't exist. And as you can see now, I can rotate and I can see all the detail that I've just put into the model. Roughly around the same time, the model department are doing the groom, laying out the fur.
Caesar was broken down into multiple fur sets, which were defined by different characteristics of types of hair that would grow naturally on a ape or human. We've got the main fur groom. We also have the peach fuzz and facial hair. So I'm just gonna paint out areas I don't want hair to grow on. The areas that are black will not be growing any hair, will be completely bald. So I turn all these on, and you've got the complete kind of color-coded groom of Caesar. The tools we used on apes were really quite unique in the sense that before we had a limited kind of amount of control. We're now with barbershop, like what we have in screen is actually like physical geometry, like it exists in this environment. I can go in and actually tweak a single hair, essentially. Well, this could be a good point to use the actual combing tool to kind of block in a bit of the silhouette. We can actually see that the hair is being affected by the light source. I can see really close to what we're going to see in a final render.
And everything kind of gets put together, and it all kind of goes back again to the actual motion capture that Andy and the team did of getting all the movements of the apes and the very subtle facial expressions.
Probably the main thing for us is, in terms of getting that emotional performance, would be the eyes.
We went to a local eye doctor and sat down and asked him tons of questions, in the research, like how do they move and what caused you to blink and how does a blink, how do the muscles actually pull when they blink. We even went into research on how the liquid of the eye sits at the bottom of your eyelid and what keeps it from rolling out and what kind of surface does it build so that when we're lighting the eyes, you get that little glint of highlight that happens from the way that the tear film fills up in the bottom of the eye.
All the eye movement and the face and the little thoughts and the feelings that go behind the emotions all read so well, and they just get translated right into the ape.
You've got entire scenes that are playing here where the performers are working off each other and there's no dialogue, but you still have to understand what's transpiring between them, and you start to see that going on behind his eyes. That's all Andy, and we just wanted to make sure we brought that to the screen.
You see within the eye swivel all of the soul and the sense of thought, and it was a thinking chimpanzee, and I think that's really unsettling.
The most challenging scenes are the scenes where Caesar is a toddler, because it's where we had the most size discrepancy between Andy and Caesar. See, when you're doing animation, it's all about the weight, so you're never trying to go lighter, you're always trying to make sure you have the appropriate weight. But in this case, we had to take the movements and just say, okay, Andy's doing this, but he's an adult male, so when he does that, what does that mean for a toddler chimp?
For us, at least in animation, the key scene that we really felt we needed to get through was the scene where Will leaves him at the ranch.
There's a point where he realizes after Will's gone back inside the office, he realizes that he's to be left behind. The rising panic and then the various emotions that he went through in that reasonably short scene.
It was huge facial challenges. Andy contoured his face in all these different ways, and we knew we had to get that scene, and if we couldn't get that scene, none of the following scenes would matter that much.
A lot of development of the face rig was actually done based around that particular scene. Some of the extremes that the muscles in Andy's face reached, multiple combinations of muscles. And then on top of that, of course, the performance called for him to be pressing his face up against glass.
We actually had modelled the pane of glass in 3D, and we had the animator's performance, and then we just kind of squashed his face against the glass, and it kind of did the right thing, like the skin kind of deformed and sort of dragged along this glass surface as you'd expect. So that kind of stuff, being able to do that's pretty new.
I'm coming back soon, okay?
The first time that I saw the fully rendered Caesar up on screen, I was completely blown away. I mean, there was my performance, all the emotion, all the eye movements, the gestures, are all cloaked in this digital chimpanzee's skin, and it was quite something.